All right, well, I decided to do a glorious run of a very, very awesome set of movies recently, and it's something to be said that Bond in general movies are very great, but there's a certain run of them, the newest one in particular, that is truly incredible because I love Daniel Craig. So I did a full review of all five Bond movies for your viewing pleasure, and here we go. Now, you can say what you want about the older Bonds. I know that, uh, Roger Moore is a fan favorite as well as Sean Connery. And although I like those movies, they are quite old to my generation. I'm the one who grew up on 007 GoldenEye for the N64 and watching the movie, and oh man, I love those movies. Now, obviously, Pierce Brosnan had a rough run with some of the other movies, although I'll probably review those again one day too. Right now, I want to focus on what I determine as the modern Bond. I love GoldenEye with all my heart. It's one of the best movies ever. But Daniel Craig did such an admirable job of Bond, and his movie run is so bloody epic that I had to talk about it. Now, it's hard to believe that it all began back in 2006 with the announcement of a new Bond. And although I'm sure at the time there was apprehensions and reservations on whether or not Daniel Craig would make a good Bond, it's needless to say that he smashed it out of the park, having one of the longest legacy Bonds of all time. And I think he brings something very unique to the palette, and you can see it in this one. He's new, he's action packed, he's intense, he's smart, it's dark, it's gritty, it's less lighthearted, and it's probably one of my favorite runs as Bond, as much as I like Goldeneye. For me, it goes Pierce Brosnan, Goldeneye, all the Bond, Craig Bonds, and then from there, you go down throughout the others. As much of a sacrilege as that would say. I would say Casino Royale is one of the best movies of all time, action spy movies of all time, let alone the best Bond movie. So starting with Casino Royale, geez, do we ever have an incredible run. Daniel Craig is magnificent in it. And even that breakout scene at the beginning where he's chasing the guy through the construction site just takes you to a different world of action and adventure. I do love that. I love Matt Nicholson in it, no matter even though he's a very minor part of the entire thing, and he doesn't put up much of a fight. But at the same time, he's so menacing, and Matt Nicholson is just truly incredible. And you know what? This is truly a great movie. That scene when he's just like barely alive and he uses his car to resuscitate himself, or Vesper just kind of just barely barely survives that poisoning. It's such an epic scene. Without saying that the whole entirety of the casino and playing each other's minds is an intense scene either. Casino Royale is just a movie of so much intensity. It has intense scenes of action, intense scenes of personalities clashing, Bond looking absolutely fabulous. Yeah, the beginning scene that is just jaw-dropping, how they actually even managed to pull all that off. And I'm sure that you could make a whole movie on just that beginning, or a whole video on just that beginning scene of chasing Bond. It's just so epic, and honestly, Casino Royale is just, I love it. It just exemplifies everything I love in spy, action, adventure type movies. And it's wicked because he's playing a new Bond, and he's a new Bond in the movie. So it just overlaps so nicely. It's a great movie. I'm not too versed in the books or what the difference is in that, but Casino Royale is such a great starter and an introduction to Craig's Bond that you really have to just sit back and watch it and just enjoy its incredible nature. It's so good. The action in it, the adventure in it, there's really nothing like it. Quantum of Solace is the second in the titular Bond movies, and it's very good too. It starts off so epically. It's just ultimately a movie that lived up to its predecessor, even though some people had said that it's not the better of the two. It's, to me, it's Bond back in true form. It's Bond back in his ways, and all the chasing and scenes and hiding around is so cool. And there's like a little bit of a revenge plot going on. It's Bond really getting into his element, and yeah. Dominic Green is not overly the most menacing Bond villain, and I would imagine that's kind of get at. He's more of smart suave than actually menacing, because he's not menacing at all. But there is some intense action scenes in Quantum of Solace. It really goes to show how there is that kind of action-y Bond in him. The scene at the end when he just like puts the guy out in Dominic Green out in the middle of the desert and leaves him with some oil and leaves him to die is pretty epic. And there's some really cool scenes in that as well. There's some harkening back to the Goldfinger there with when she's covered in oil and killed that agent. And there's the Bond girl, she didn't click with Bond, so they didn't really share a moment. Quantum of Solace just kind of it's just kind of the desert Bond in my eyes. It's not the best of them, but it certainly is cool. I'm sure it had games. See, this is the thing about Craig Bond, is he's such a game character. He's intense, he's action packed. He just he just kicks ass essentially. And he's such a cool character. And after Casino Royale, this led him into his secondary role as just being super epic. Let's continue this thing. He is Bond now. Make it, make him, put him in all these epic adventures. Skyfall is perhaps one of my favorite of all of the Craig Bonds, and it is the one that earned the most. It is, in my essence, the perfect Bond. You've got the Komodo dragons, fighting them. You've got the menacing Bond villain Javier Bardem as Silva. You've got all the gizmos and gadgets. You've got Q and Moneypenny, and it all just works. In the end, it's a really intense defensive standoff that he has, but the whole movie through and through is just oozing with beauty and Bondness, and Bond is just so epic in it. There's a scene when he's out on that island, and he has to shoot the shot glass off the with what we thought would be the next Bond villain, or Bond girl, obviously not, and he misses, and then the Silva just shoots the chick, and he says it's a waste of good scotch. Just so epic. And then he takes out all those guys and saves the day. Craig Bond is just so epic, and in this movie Skyfall, you can see how he is just the antithesis of Bond. He is just Bond in his most Bond form. The chasing, the action, the beginning sequence, everything in this is just him at his greatest level, and he's just so bloody epic in it. It doesn't really go to show that this being the best, me going Skyfall is one of the best, Casino Royale is second, and then all three others kind of fall in between that. Doesn't mean to say that the other movies aren't good, but I mean, Skyfall, how can you compete with? It's just like, in my mind, it's like the perfect Bond. Like Casino Royale has its starts and it's good as a standalone movie, but as the Bond movie, it's the best because it's just Bond at his greatest. He's dealing with a menacing villain. He's doing all that London chase scene when he's chasing Silva through the London railway there, or monorail, or what do they call it, the underground Tran. It's just so epic, and it's Bond in his most epic. Skyfall is one I could just watch over and over and over again. It's such a Bond movie. How he, and then they do this thing, okay, at the beginning. So at the beginning, for me, it's so weird that he survives that, because there is like a notification kind of thing, AI saying that it's very unlikely that Bond would have survived that fall just to the impact. Although, he's Bond, he can't be killed. Nothing can kill him. So you have that beginning part where you're like, yeah, I don't know, would he survive that? But it kind of adds to Craig Bond's character, because unlike the other Bonds that were, they were intense, and they're always smart and they're always winning. There's something about Craig Bond is that he just can't be killed. He's just so he puts himself on the line and just barely ever, survives these impossible odds. That makes it, super epic too. And you kind of see the side of Bond that a sort of defeated version of him. He at the beginning he's kind of broken, and seeing him build himself back up again is deeply epic. There's something about this one that is just super awesome, and I friggin' love Skyfall. Spectre is yet another incredible Bond performance, and you know what? I would say, I would probably say Spectre is the third in line of the best one. It would go, obviously, for me, Skyfall, Casino Royale, Spectre, and then we'll get to the other two as we go along. Spectre is in essence like a really great continuation of it all. You have that beginning opening scene where he's at the Day of the Dead, and he's fighting through those crowds of people, and he does that suave way of taking that smoking hot Latina up to the bedroom, leaving her, saying that he won't be back long, that wicked music playing in the background as he's walking over the rooftops. It's just so epic, and it just draws you into the movie. It's so intense. And I love Christoph Waltz. He is just such a great Bond villain. You would argue to say that maybe Christoph Waltz didn't get the most acclaim as a Bond villain, because there could have been so many more scenes where he's menacingly talking to Bond, and he's plotting and playing with him more, and we'll get into the next film because he continues on into that one. But Christoph Waltz was born to play a Bond villain. He's a villainous person, and you can see that in the way that he portrays himself in this film. He's really good as Blofeld, and the end part is epic too. What a way to end the movie. With him making a choose between him and his true love Bond girl, so to speak. Madeline is just made to be a Bond girl. She exemplifies that. She's just so deeply in love with him, and beautiful, and Bond is there to save the day all the time. It's great, and it has a lot of intense chase sequences. The scene up in the Alps or whatever is super awesome. Spectre, great movie again. The helicopter scene is so ridiculous. You'd think Bond, why would you take out the flyer of the helicopter? But he's that intense, is that he can just fight, he can win, he can beat everyone. And M. Ralph Fiennes, he's so good at what he does. He's another character who's born to play a Bond villain. Fiennes, I loved him. He's great. He's menacing. He's just loving every minute of it. Max Dennebright is not the greatest villain, because you can tell he's just a pussy. But and Monica Bellucci is even in it. Who's super smoking hot, obviously. So Bond is just surrounding himself with excellence in this movie. Christoph Waltz is great. They're all great in it. Spectre's an incredible movie, and it really, really does. That end scene, when he's in the desert, and then you think it's over, and he's like, "It's not over yet." You just like, "Oh, this is wicked." I remember seeing this in the theater, and I was like, "Oh," everybody was like, "It's over," and it's like, "Wait a second, it's not over." It's great twists and plots like that in this, where it never lets up in Craig Bond. It's just like you always know you're just minutes, less than a minute or minute away from the most intense breakout action scene. And yeah, this Bond is, this is one of the greats of it. It is truly, truly an incredible film. I love Spectre. And that brings us all the way to the final movie. And in my opinion, the weakest entry by a long shot. No Time to Die is a very special movie because this movie came out, Spectre came out in 2015, and No Time to Die came out in 2021. So, there was a significant gap in not only in time, but in culture in general. And it shows massively. People are using smartphones regularly now, and there's I'm sure that existed in 2015 and that back then, but this is prominently the digital modern age Bond. And there's something ironic to say about the way the movie portrays itself, because yes, on one side you are dealing with a Bond in the modern era, and it shows in more ways than once, including modern wokeness, and the eye-rolling edition of Nomi as the new 007 is just, and she's obnoxious, she's annoying, she's unlikable. Bond doesn't even want anything to do with her. It's great, and it really goes to show the two types of black women in these types of movies. You have Moneypenny, who's a very likable woman. She's cool, she's awesome. She's there to protect Bond. And then you have Nomi, who's just kind of there in the way, kind of annoying. At the end, she's girl bossing her way around. It's so eye-rolling, and it brings the franchise down to a T. Now, I'm not accepting the fact that Bond is dead, because Craig Bond will never die. But in the official canon, he dies at the end of this movie, and just seeing that leaves you icky. It's like, I don't know if this follows the books or if it follows the original idea of, let's just seal off Bond. I mean, you got to hand it to Daniel Craig. He played this role for basically 20 years. So the fact that he wants out of that is, I don't blame the guy. I think he had an incredible run. These are some of the 5 of the best action movies ever made. And this one, although it's the weakest link, has some pretty intense moments in it. Rami Malek is not overly bad as Safin. He's not overly terrible. He's a little bit cringy in the ways he are. But this movie, once again, has so many intense elements to it. So many cool scenes. But there are so many scenes that drag it down, too. Like, Nomi just being annoying and just being there. It really harkens to the modern wokeness, where it's like, yeah, we can't have nice things. You couldn't have just made No Time to Die without her. Like without that character kind of just being in the way. And it really slows the production down. And just the way Bond died at the end, there's a lot of corny scenes in this movie too. It's more lighthearted, and it's in line with what happened with Pierce Brosnan. Is that Pierce Brosnan's so epic in GoldenEye. The first 4 Daniel Craig movies are like GoldenEye at levels of epic, but then you have, the world is, whatever the other Pierce Brosnan movies. It's like what affected it had it affected this. It's really cringy with the gags. It's really cringy with the gadgets. They're making slack jokes to each other and goofing around, and then Bond just dies at the end. It's a whole production that leaves you kind of feeling empty. But I mean, you can't really say that he didn't get an epic send off. It's a crazy movie. It's maybe the worst of all the Daniel Craig Bonds. but it's still a Daniel Craig Bond. And if you can ignore some of the more annoying things like Nomi and some of the gags and quirkiness of this movie, and hilariously the source material going, this happened during COVID. So I remember thinking this at the time when I saw this movie. I was also like, oh, they're talking about COVID. And there's a really epic scene where the, I don't know, like Spectre or whatever breaks into this biolab to steal all these samples, and that is pretty epic considering this movie came out during COVID. Bond saves the day. He saves the world basically. So I mean, there is an epic send off, and he has that kind of fatherly moment with Madeline's kid. He has that charming friendship that's gone on with Moneypenny and Q, and it's just overall sad. And I think that, like, no matter how much they weren't going to make like a Bond TV series or another Cut 4 movies, but you kind of feel yourself feeling kind of empty after seeing that. Like, yeah, they ended Craig Bond. Craig Bond is canonically dead. He didn't get his sail off into the sunset. Not to think that Bond wouldn't sail off into the sunset. I mean, he tells Felix that he's like, it's the best life, so he has no regrets for the way he lived before he died. But yeah, I mean, it's just a movie that kind of exists, and it's like, it takes away a little bit from how amazing the feeling how amazing it is, because that he's just going to die in the end. But at the same time, if you ignore all that, you picture in your head, maybe he's survived, who knows? Or, you pretty much see him get blown to shit. But at the same time, you can just kind of say, you know what, Craig Bond had a great run. No Time to Die, probably not the best. I would have done it differently. You can just live for the fact that Craig Bond existed. He died. He lived. He died in, No Time to Die. Yes, there's some modern audience influences, but yeah. Ana de Armas as Paloma is freaking awesome too. She's a wicked, quirky Bond chick. And Bond gets his time to shine one last time. And, they could have just ended it. But these movies were insanely profitable. Like, I think Skyfall was box office over $1 billion. So, and this is the lowest, box office, one of them. So, I mean, they all kind of have their place. But No Time to Die is its finality. It's the end. And, yeah, Bond rip, because that was an epic run. The Lord only knows what the next Bond is going to be. I don't particularly think it's going to be that great, and it's certainly not going to be anything close to Daniel Craig's run as Bond. I think that Daniel Craig's Bond is the last great Bond we'll see in a while, and I think this new Amazon thing will be it'll be a new Bond we don't really care about. It'll be the same kind of thing as it happens in these movies, but who cares about the characters? You grow to really love James Bond, Daniel Craig. And part of the draw that most of these movies, yeah, they'd probably be good movies on their own without Craig, but with Craig, they take them to the stratosphere. And No Time to Die would have been a very meh movie if it wasn't for Daniel Craig. So he takes it himself into the echelons of being great just by his wicked performance, just how cool of a dude he is, and how much he matches the character and what we all imagine in our mind James Bond to be. So I don't think there will be another Bond as good as James Craig or Daniel Craig for a long time, James Craig. And I just think his run is epic, and he doesn't get enough, praise. He is like the quintessential modern Bond, but he lived up to it in such an epic way that, like, you cannot sit back and say, you know what, those older movies were good and they're kind of quirky in their own way. GoldenEye was an absolute legendary film, but none of those older movies are anything compared to the new Craig Bond run. It is James Bond. He is Bond in all of our mind. And yeah, it's just so good. You have to watch them all because they all tie into each other. They all link. They all have similar characters, and it's just such an incredible run. Daniel Craig is a legendary actor, and he brought Bond alive in a ways that I nobody could have predicted probably back then. And there are so many people who rewatch these 5 movies just because of how epic they are and how there's just no other movie like them out there. For other Bonds that come out, I would think Cavill would be Cavill would be fine, but Cavill's got a lot on his plate. I mean, he's probably got movie pitches coming at him from every angle. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna be him. Jason Statham doesn't really feel like a Bond. I don't know. I really don't know unless they pick some obscure actor like they did with Craig. It just fits the part. But I'd highly imagine we're gonna get one of two things. We're gonna get a black Bond, which if it's not Idris Elba, it would be weak. But Idris is getting a little older, so yeah, I don't know about that one. So we're gonna get a black Bond. We're gonna get a woman Bond. God forbid we get Lashasha Lynch. Nomi from the final moves is just like, hey, I'm Bond now. It's like, no, they ruined it. But we don't know. And we don't know what Amazon's going to come out with, but I don't have any faith in what they come out with. But for the time being, we have all the older movies. We've got GoldenEye, which is an incredible movie because the game movie, they link so well. It's like you're watching the game when you're watching the movie and vice versa. But yeah, Daniel Craig's run as Bond is legendary. He's so awesome. He makes you want to be Bond. He makes you want to be cool like him. And honestly, there's just no other movies out there that matches the level of intensity and uniqueness of Daniel Craig's Bond run. He is an incredible actor. Shout out to Daniel Craig. He's freaking amazing. I love his Bond. I'll love these movies for a very, very long time and probably will watch them all again. So yeah, that's my review on the modern James Bond Daniel Craig.